The forest always whispered of her curse. Children grew up with stories of shadows that stole wolves from their hosts, of girls born hollow, never to shift beneath the moon. She was one of those stories. From the moment of her birth, silence had filled the pack house instead of the triumphant cry of a newborn wolf's first howl. They named her Illyra, but no one said her name with warmth. To the others, she was the girl with no wolf. She remembered hiding behind the cracked stone wall outside the pack's training yard, watching other children shift for the first time. Their laughter carried like silver bells through the evening air. Fur rippled, bones stretched, golden eyes gleamed, and she stood apart, a stranger among her own kind. "You'll never be one of us." A boy once sneered, kicking dust at her bare feet. His words clung to her skin like ash. She told herself the lie so many times that it almost became truth. "I'm human. I was never meant to shift." She forced herself to believe it, even when her blood burned under every full moon, even when she dreamed of running on 4 paws through endless pines. Her mother tried to comfort her, whispering that perhaps her wolf would come late. But as years passed, even her mother's voice trembled with doubt. The pack grew harsher, their stares colder. The cruelest wound came not from strangers but from silence, never being chosen, never being acknowledged, always overlooked. She moved through the halls like a ghost, refusing to look at her reflection for fear of seeing emptiness staring back. And so Illyra swore the only vow that gave her strength. She would remain human. She would never let them see how much it hurt. If the wolf inside her truly was dead, then she would bury it herself. Yet somewhere, deep beneath skin and sorrow, a spark still stirred. A slumbering fire, one that waited for the right moment to burn. The evening air smelled of pine smoke and anticipation. Torches burned along the edges of the clearing where the pack had gathered for the moon feast. Voices hummed with excitement, bodies pressed close, and somewhere above the treetops the moon spilled her silver light like a blessing. Illyra kept to the back, hands tucked inside her worn cloak. She had learned to blend into shadows to make herself invisible. Tonight, she wished invisibility truly were a gift, because he was here, Alpha Kalen. He moved through the crowd like a storm wrapped in flesh, tall and commanding, with eyes the color of winter frost. His presence made wolves bow without a word. Power rolled off him, sharp as lightning, and when those eyes locked on her, the world stopped. Her breath caught, chest tightening, the bond, the one she never believed she'd feel, snapped into place. It was undeniable. Her pulse quickened, her soul trembling with recognition. Fate had chosen him. No, not him. Illyra swallowed hard, backing deeper into the shadows, but Kalen's gaze followed like a hunter scenting prey. He crossed the clearing, every step measured, deliberate. The crowd parted for him, murmurs rising, and before she could vanish, he stood before her. So, his voice was low, dangerous. "It's you." Her lips parted, but no words came. Heat flared through the bond, a fire she both craved and feared. He leaned closer, his expression carved from stone. "You don't even have a wolf." The words struck harder than any blow. The crowd around them whispered, curious, hungry for scandal. Illyra's heart hammered against her ribs. I'm human," she whispered, forcing the lie past her lips. "You're mistaken." Kalen's eyes narrowed, the muscles in his jaw tightening. For a moment, she thought she glimpsed something softer beneath the frost confusion, perhaps even longing. But it vanished as quickly as it came. "You should stay out of sight," he said coldly, loud enough for others to hear. "The pack doesn't need weakness paraded before them." Illyra flinched. The rejection wasn't spoken outright, but it weighed heavier than any formal decree. He turned from her, shoulders squared, leaving only the echo of his disdain. Still, as he walked away, Illyra felt it. The pull that wouldn't loosen, the bond thrumming between them like a tether tied too tight. She wanted to cut it, to tear it free, but her body betrayed her, yearning for the very man who looked at her as though she were nothing. Her fingers curled into fists. If this was fate, then fate was cruel. The torches flickered in the rising wind, shadows stretching long across the clearing, and though Kalen had left her in the dark, she knew with chilling certainty this was only the beginning. The Alpha's eyes had found her. And they would not let her go. The next night was colder than most, though the bonfires roared high and bright at the center of the pack's sacred grounds. The choosing ceremony was meant to be a celebration of bonds, when the moon revealed fated mates, when vows were made and futures secured. Every wolf dressed in finery, silver threads woven into garments that shimmered beneath the moonlight. Music swelled, laughter carried, and expectation hung thick in the air. Illyra wanted nothing more than to disappear. She pressed against the farthest stone pillar, heart slamming, praying the night would pass without her name ever being called. But fate had never been merciful to her. A voice rang out across the crowd. Illyra of the Silverpine line, step forward. The world tilted. Heads turned. Murmurs rippled through the gathering like restless waves. Even her cloak could not hide her now. Someone's hand shoved her forward, and she stumbled into the circle of firelight. She wished she could melt into the earth. Her breath came shallow, each step toward the dais feeling like a walk into execution. And then she saw him. Kalen stood at the front, alpha in every sense of the word. Broad, shouldered, controlled, impossibly steady, except for the frost in his eyes as they fell on her. The bond pulsed between them, undeniable, raw. Every wolf present could feel it. A hush fell. Whispers rose, she has no wolf. Impossible, the alpha's mate, a curse, must be. Her chest ached, shame burning her cheeks. She opened her mouth, desperate to say something, anything, but Kalen spoke first. This, he said, his voice carrying like iron through the night, is not possible. The silence cracked into gasps. She has no wolf. He continued, his eyes narrowing, his jaw set hard. I will not take a mate who cannot even stand as one of us. The words landed like claws against her heart. Illyra flinched as laughter broke out. Cruel, mocking laughter. A few voices jeered openly. Someone spat at the ground near her feet. Her throat burned. She forced her chin up, though her body trembled. I never asked for this bond. She whispered hoarsely, I never claimed you. Kalen's stare cut deeper, unreadable in its coldness. For a moment she thought she saw conflict flicker across his face, a crack in the wall of rejection. But then he turned, lifting his head toward the crowd. She will not stand as Luna, he declared. She is nothing more than human. The finality in his tone shattered what remained of her composure. Illyra's vision blurred with unshed tears. The firelight twisted, the sound of mocking voices closing in from every side. Her hands shook as she turned from him, stumbling back into the shadows. The choosing ceremony moved on without her, laughter and vows ringing loud and cruel, as though she had never stood in the center at all. But inside, her vow grew sharper. If he sees me as nothing, then nothing is what I'll become. I will not break before him. Still, as she slipped into the dark, the bond tugged mercilessly, a chain she could not sever, and somewhere behind her, though she did not see it, Kalen's cold expression faltered for just a heartbeat. Illyra's chest still burned from the ceremony, as though the alpha's words had been carved into her skin. Nothing more than human. The jeers still rang in her ears long after the fires had dimmed, long after the pack had gone to their dens, their laughter echoing in the night. She walked alone beneath the silvered pines, cloak pulled tightly around her. Each step was heavy, her throat raw with words she hadn't spoken. The bond throbbed within her chest, relentless, cruel, reminding her that no matter what Kalen said, fate had already bound them. But she refused to let the truth destroy her. At dawn, whispers chased her through the pack house, wolves huddled in corners, eyes darting toward her. Some smirked, some sneered, others simply looked at her with pity. The weight of their stares pressed on her until she snapped. I'm human, she said, the words sharp as a blade, her voice cutting through the hall. Do you understand? I don't have a wolf. I never did. Her declaration silenced them, if only for a moment. But silence was worse than laughter. It meant no one believed her. Later, when she passed near the training grounds, 2 younger wolves muttered under their breath. Then how could the bond choose her? It's wrong. She's hiding something. Illyra quickened her pace, refusing to meet their eyes. She found solitude near the riverbank, the current rushing wild and fast. Dropping to her knees, she pressed her hands into the cold earth. Her reflection wavered in the water. Pale face, hollow eyes. No glow, no golden light of a wolf staring back. I'm human, she whispered to the rippling surface, as if the water itself might believe her. The sound of boots crunching on gravel made her flinch. She didn't need to turn to know who it was. Kalen's voice was a shadow behind her. "You think you can lie to me." Her back stiffened. She rose slowly, her heart racing. His presence was suffocating, power radiating off him like storm winds. "I'm not lying," she said quietly, forcing her chin up. "I don't have a wolf, Alpha. Whatever bond you felt, it's a mistake." Kalen stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes." "Then maybe she cursed me," Alara shot back, surprising herself with the steel in her tone. "Either way, I'm not your problem." For a heartbeat, his expression flickered. Something dark conflicted. His hand twitched at his side as though he wanted to reach for her but couldn't. "You'll only bring danger to this pack," he said finally, his voice rough. "And to me." Her heart cracked at the words, but she would not let him see her break. She turned away, her voice steady even as tears stung her eyes. "Then you have nothing to fear, Alpha. I told you, I'm human." The river roared between them, carrying her lie downstream. But Kalen's gaze lingered long after she was gone, cold and conflicted, as though he didn't quite believe her. Night fell heavy and restless over the pack house. The fires from the day's training still smoldered, smoke drifting through the trees like ghostly fingers. Alara sat on the edge of her narrow bed, staring at the moonlight spilling across the floorboards. No matter how tightly she curled into herself, she couldn't shut it out. The bond pulsed in her chest, hot and insistent, like a heartbeat that didn't belong to her. She hated it, she craved it. Every time Kalen entered a room, her body betrayed her, lungs refusing air, skin alive with heat, heart hammering as if it recognized a part of itself in him. It was unbearable. And it was only getting worse. The next morning, she thought she might avoid him if she left before dawn. But when she stepped into the clearing, he was already there. Kalen trained shirtless, muscles coiled and slick with sweat, every movement a predator's grace. His fists cracked against wooden posts, each strike sharp enough to split the silence. Wolves circled nearby, watching their alphas display with awe. Alara froze at the tree line, pulse stumbling. She told herself to leave. But the bond dragged her forward, invisible chains tugging her toward him. He noticed her instantly, of course he did. His head turned, eyes locking on hers with that same unbearable intensity. The air thickened, as though even the wind bowed to the weight between them. "Why are you here?" he asked, voice low, clipped. Alara forced her arms around herself, nails digging into her palms. "I didn't come for you." His lips curved, not in a smile, but something colder, sharper. "Yet you stand here, watching." Heat surged up her neck. She spun on her heel, desperate to escape, but his voice followed her, rough with something he tried to bury. "You feel it too." She stopped. The words cut deeper than any blade. Slowly, she turned back. "Feel what?" Kalen stepped closer, every inch of him radiating authority, danger, temptation. His eyes burned silver in the morning light. "The bond. You can deny it all you want, Alara, but it's there, between us, stronger than either of us can fight." Her throat tightened, the truth pressed like fire against her ribs, begging to be admitted. But if she surrendered to it, she would drown. So she lied again. "You're wrong. Whatever this is, it's nothing." His jaw flexed, eyes darkening, as though her denial was both a relief and a wound. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other, two enemies tethered by something neither could escape. Then Kalen turned sharply, his voice flat, final. "Stay away from me." He walked back into the ring, fists striking wood again, harder, louder, as if he could silence the bond by force. But Alara felt it still, every strike echoing inside her chest, and as she fled into the trees, her breath came quick and shallow, her body betraying the lie she had spoken. Because the truth clawed at her mercilessly, she did feel it, and it was tearing her apart. Sleep abandoned Alara that night. When her eyes finally closed, dreams clawed at her, vivid and brutal. She ran barefoot through a forest of shadows, the ground trembling under her. A howl split the night, not mocking, not cruel, but hers, low, wild, aching with freedom. She saw flashes of fur, gold as firelight, muscles rippling beneath skin that wasn't hers and yet was. Then pain, searing, ripping, until she woke with a gasp, her body slick with sweat. Her nails had carved shallow crescents into her palms. Her skin burned as if something lived just beneath, pressing, begging to be freed. She shoved the blanket off and stumbled to the basin of water, splashing her face. Her reflection stared back, pale, hollow-eyed human, and yet, for just an instant, gold flickered where her pupils should be. "No," she whispered, gripping the wooden rim until her knuckles whitened. "I buried you, you're gone." But her wolf wasn't gone. She could feel it now, restless under her skin, prowling in the dark. By morning, she wrapped herself tighter in her cloak, hoping no one could see the storm building inside her. But the pack was sharper than she gave them credit for. Whispers chased her steps. "She looks different." Her eyes. "Did you see them? Something's wrong with her." The cruelest voice came not from shadows, but from the rival who always found her weakest moments. Selene, tall, raven-haired, every movement dripping with the confidence of someone born to rule. Selene slid into Alara's path at the edge of the training grounds. Her lips curved into a predator's smile. "Well, well, the cursed girl walks." Alara stiffened. "Leave me alone." Selene's laughter was low, rich with venom. "Why would I? Watching you squirm is better than sport. And now the alpha can't seem to keep his eyes off you. Do you enjoy parading your weakness, Alara, hoping pity might make him yours?" Her throat tightened, fury flashing, but before she could speak, Selene leaned close, her whisper sharp as glass. "Or maybe you're hiding something. Wolves don't just vanish. Perhaps your wolf sleeps, waiting for the wrong moment to wake." Alara's blood chilled. She forced her face blank, even as heat crawled across her skin where the restless beast pressed from within. "I told everyone, I'm human. There is nothing to wake." Selene tilted her head, golden eyes gleaming with mockery. "We'll see." She brushed past, the scent of roses and steel lingering like poison. Alara stood frozen long after she was gone. She wanted to believe her own lie, wanted to keep the wolf locked away forever. But her body betrayed her, her skin humming, her blood burning, her reflection showing eyes that weren't entirely her own. Something inside her was stirring, and when it finally rose to the surface, she feared nothing, not even Kalen's rejection, would be able to stop it. The training grounds were alive with sound, thuds of fists on wood, the clatter of steel, the sharp bark of commands. Morning mist clung to the air, softening the edges of the warriors' bodies as they sparred beneath the watchful eye of their alpha. Alara shouldn't have been there. Every part of her screamed to stay away, to avoid the stares and whispers that followed her like shadows. But Selene had cornered her at breakfast, her smile too sweet, her voice cutting. "If you want to prove you belong here at all, cursed girl, you'll come." So Alara came, and now she stood at the edge of the sparring ring, cloak wrapped tight around her as Selene's voice rang out. "Why don't we let our little human show us what she's made of?" The pack's laughter rolled like thunder. Wolves circled closer, eyes gleaming with hunger for humiliation. Alara's stomach twisted, but Selene was already gesturing her forward, a cruel smirk painted across her lips. "She doesn't belong here," someone muttered. "She'll collapse before the first strike," another said. Alara's hands trembled as she stepped into the ring. The dirt was cold beneath her bare feet. Selene faced her with deliberate grace, every line of her body confident, lethal. "Ready?" Selene asked, feigned politeness dripping with venom. Alara swallowed hard, raising her hands though she knew it was useless. The first strike came fast. Selene's palm slammed into her shoulder, sending her stumbling back into the circle's edge. Laughter erupted from the crowd. "Pathetic," Selene sneered, circling. "This is the alpha's mate. The moon goddess must be laughing." Alara's chest burned. She fought to stay upright, fought not to cry, even as Selene's next blow knocked her to her knees. Dirt clung to her palms, her lungs heaving. "Stay down," Selene hissed. "That's where you belong." But Alara pushed up again, not because she believed she could win. She knew she couldn't. She stood because she refused to let Selene see her break. Another strike came, harder this time, sharp enough to make her vision spark. Enough. The command cut through the laughter like a blade. Kalen's voice, the crowd fell silent, parting as he stepped into the ring. His gaze was icy, but beneath the coldness a storm brewed. Selene straightened, her smirk faltering. Alpha, I was only humiliating her. Kalen's tone was deadly quiet. Selene bowed her head, though her eyes still gleamed with triumph. She asked for it. Elira's heart twisted as Kalen's gaze shifted to her. He didn't move toward her, didn't offer comfort, only stared, conflicted, as though he couldn't decide whether to shield her or condemn her. The bond hummed between them, fierce and unyielding, and though he turned away at last, his voice was heavy with warning. This ends now. He left the circle without another word, but Elira felt it in her bones, the way his fists had clenched, the way his voice had cracked. He was unraveling, and it terrified her almost as much as Selene's cruelty. Because if Kalen broke, the whole pack would see it, and so would she. The forest was darker than usual, a restless hush pressing against the trees as if the night itself held its breath. Elira's ribs still ached from Selene's strikes, but she had slipped into the woods anyway, needing distance from the sneers, the whispers, and, most of all, from Kalen's cold, unreadable eyes. Her hands shook as she touched the rough bark of an oak, grounding herself against the rising tide of pain. But it wasn't just pain, it was something else, a heat, a pulse beneath her skin that throbbed in time with her heartbeat. Not now, not here, but the forest had other plans. A low growl slithered through the silence, then another. Eyes glowed in the underbrush. Rogues, half-starved, savage wolves who had dared to cross into Kalen's territory. Elira's blood ran cold. She staggered back, searching for a path, but the circle closed fast. 4 of them, maybe more. Their teeth glinted under the moonlight, dripping hunger. No. Her voice broke, trembling. Not like this, one leapt. Elira raised her arms instinctively, waiting for the bite, for the end, but something inside her snapped. A white, hot blaze ignited in her chest, ripping through her veins. Her scream split the night, but it wasn't human. It was primal, resonant, filled with ancient fury. Her body contorted, every bone shifting, tearing, breaking, and remaking itself. Golden light flared, dazzling against the darkness. Her hands weren't hands anymore. They were paws, fur bristling, claws digging into the earth. And her eyes burned molten gold. The rogue skidded to a halt, growls faltering. What stood before them was not the cursed girl, not the fragile human they expected. It was a wolf, Elira's wolf. She lunged with a speed she didn't know she possessed, catching the first rogue by the throat. Blood sprayed the leaves, another charged. She spun, slamming it into a tree so hard the trunk splintered. Her wolf roared, voice shaking the night sky, a sound that echoed through the bond of every wolf in the territory, including Kalen. He was already running before he realized it, his heart hammering. The pull was irresistible, frantic, and when he broke into the clearing, his chest seized. Golden fur gleamed beneath the moonlight, powerful muscles rippling with every strike. She was a vision, feral, breathtaking, terrifying. Elira, her head whipped toward him, glowing eyes locking with his. For one suspended heartbeat, the world stilled. The bond between them ignited, thrumming so violently he nearly fell to his knees. But then her body shuddered, the glow dimmed. With a final strangled growl, she collapsed into the dirt, naked skin replacing fur, trembling and unconscious. Kalen was at her side in an instant, dropping to his knees. His hands hovered over her, afraid to touch, afraid she might vanish like a dream. But she didn't vanish. She lay there, real, fragile, and yet impossibly powerful. And Kalen's heart whispered the truth he had tried so hard to deny. She is mine, he clenched his fists jaw tight as the rest of the warriors stormed into the clearing behind him, eyes wide with shock. Selene gasped, impossible. The pack would never see Elira the same way again. Neither would he, and yet, as Kalen stared at her unconscious form, one thought consumed him: if the girl who was never supposed to have a wolf had won this strong. What else had she been hiding? The great hall of the pack house was stifling that night, every voice hushed, every gaze fixed on the girl at the center. Elira stood barefoot on the stone floor, her body still trembling from the shift that had shattered her carefully built lie. Her hair clung damply to her skin, her eyes downcast, but the golden shimmer still lingered in her irises like embers that refused to die. Around her, the pack murmured in disbelief. The girl with no wolf. The cursed one. She shifted. Seleni's laughter cut through the whispers like a blade. Oh, how convenient. She hides her wolf all these years and suddenly, miraculously, she's powerful. Do you not see the danger, Alpha? Illyra's chest tightened. Her gaze lifted, desperate, searching for Kaelin. He stood before his pack, every inch the Alpha broad, shouldered, commanding, his face carved from stone, but his eyes burned with a storm Illyra couldn't read. Rage, fear, desire, something darker she didn't dare name. Kaelin, she whispered, her voice breaking, you felt it. You know I'm not what they say. The bond between them pulsed undeniable, but Kaelin's jaw tightened. He raised his hand, silencing the hall. She is dangerous, he said, voice low, controlled, but carrying to every corner this. Creature hid her wolf from us, lied to us. If she is strong enough to fool the pack for years, what else is she capable of? The words struck harder than any blow. Illyra staggered back, her breath catching as if the air had been ripped from her lungs. No. She shook her head. I never wanted this. I swore I was human because it was safer for me, for everyone, lies. Selene hissed, triumphant. Kaelin's gaze met Illyra's again, and for a fleeting second she saw something raw, anguish, longing, but it was gone as quickly as it came, smothered beneath the weight of his authority. In front of this pack, Kaelin declared, voice hard as steel, I reject you. The hall erupted, gasps, growls, stunned silence. Illyra's knees nearly buckled. The bond writhed in agony, a searing fire tearing through her chest. She gritted her teeth against the scream clawing up her throat. You can't, her voice broke. You can't sever what the moon goddess has bound. Kaelin's expression darkened, but his voice remained steady. Watch me. She fell silent, tears burning hot trails down her cheeks. Every instinct screamed to run, to fight, to beg, but she did none of those things. Instead, she lifted her chin, trembling but unbroken. If you think rejecting me makes you free, she whispered hoarsely, then you don't understand the bond any more than I did. The pain twisted deeper, unbearable. She turned before the pack could see her fall apart, her bare feet echoing against the stone as she walked out of the hall. The crowd parted, silent, as if witnessing an execution. Kaelin's hands curled into fists at his sides, his chest heaving. He could feel her pain in his own ribs, sharp and suffocating. But still, he stood tall, watching her vanish into the night. He told himself it was for the pack. Then, why did it feel like it was tearing him apart? The night air was cold, but Kaelin burned. He paced the length of his chambers, fists clenched, jaw tight. The echo of Illyra's broken voice still thrumming in his skull. You can't sever what the moon goddess has bound. He had spoken the words of rejection with steel in his tone, but steel did not dull the pain. It carved through him now, merciless, every breath dragging her anguish into his chest. This was the curse of the bond. He pressed his palms against the wooden table until it groaned under the force. Her scent still clung to him. Wild honey, smoke, something golden and untamed. He tried to shake it, to drown it in the cool night wind drifting through the open window. It only grew stronger, gnawing at his restraint. A knock rattled the door. Selene slipped in, her movements smooth as silk. She leaned against the frame, arms crossed, a smirk playing on her lips. You did the right thing, she purred. The pack needs strength, not chaos. Whatever she is, she's dangerous. Kaelin's eyes flicked toward her, sharp enough to cut. Get out. Selene faltered, then forced a sweet smile. I only mean, I said out. The command in his voice left no room for disobedience. She paled, bowed her head, and slipped into the corridor. Alone again, Kaelin exhaled shakily. His wolf clawed at him, restless, furious. She is ours. She is ours. He pressed his hands to his temples, growling low. No, she lied. She hid. The pack will never trust her. But the truth whispered beneath every excuse. He hadn't rejected Illyra to protect the pack. He had rejected her to protect himself, because claiming her meant unraveling, surrendering to a bond that terrified him. Because what if she was stronger than him? A sudden, sharp pang ripped through his chest. He staggered, bracing against the wall. His breath caught. The This wasn't his pain, it was hers, Illyra. Somewhere beyond these walls, she was breaking. The wolf within him howled, demanding he go to her, comfort her, claim her. His feet moved toward the door before his mind could stop them. He froze, fingers curling around the handle. If he left now, if he gave in, he would never come back. He would be hers, bound in ways he could never undo, and an alpha could not afford weakness. He released the handle, forcing himself back from the door. His heart thundered like a war drum, each beat reminding him of what he had lost. He turned to the window, watching the silver moon hang heavy over the tree line. Somewhere in that darkness, she walked alone, bleeding from a wound he had inflicted. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the night, though no one would hear. His wolf growled at him in bitter fury, refusing to forgive. Kaelin sank into the shadows, head bowed, a king already haunted by the ghost of the girl he had cast aside, and the bond, unbroken, throbbed mercilessly in his veins, a promise that no rejection could erase. Illyra wandered through the forest with no sense of direction, only the fire in her chest guiding her. Each step was heavier than the last, her body trembling as though her very soul had been torn open. She clutched her chest, gasping, trying to breathe through the bond's savage burn. He rejected me, but why does it still hurt like this? The wind carried his scent. Pine, smoke, storm. She bit down on a sob, curling her fingers against the bark of a tree as though anchoring herself against the pull. No matter how far she walked, Kaelin was there, lingering inside her veins, his heartbeat echoing faintly against her own. She hated him for it, hated herself more for still aching for him, but bonds did not care for hatred. Her knees buckled, sending her to the forest floor. She clawed at the dirt, panting, "Leave me alone." She whispered, though the plea wasn't to the night. It was to the tether tying her to him. Miles away, Kaelin jolted upright in his chambers. His hands flew to his chest as pain lanced through him, sharp and raw, not his own, Illyra. He tried to shut it out. He tried to lock the bond behind iron walls. But every time he pushed it down, her agony surged back, fiercer, a tidal wave crashing through his resolve. He stumbled to the window, fists curling white. Why won't it break? His voice cracked with something between rage and despair. I rejected her. The bond should be severed, but deep inside, he knew the truth. It would never break, not with her. Not with the wolf who had revealed herself in golden fire, the wolf who had been his from the moment their eyes met. The bond was older than his pride, older than the pack, older than his fear. In the forest, Illyra's wolf stirred again, restless beneath her skin. Not shifting, but speaking, a whisper through the burning. He is ours, even if he denies it, even if he fights. Illyra shook her head violently. No, I won't be his second choice. I won't beg for scraps. Yet even as she said it, her body trembled with the ache to be near him. Her heart betrayed her with every beat, reaching for him across the night. A crack of branches startled her. She looked up sharply, and froze. Kaelin stood at the edge of the clearing, chest heaving, eyes wild. For a moment, neither moved. The bond thrummed between them like a live wire, dragging her heartbeat into rhythm with his. Illyra. His voice was hoarse, almost pleading. Stay back. She rasped, pushing herself upright, though her legs shook. You've done enough, but his feet betrayed him, carrying him closer despite the warning. His eyes burned, filled with torment and something she couldn't name. I can't stop feeling you, he confessed, voice breaking. I tried, goddess knows I tried, but you're still here. He pressed his fist to his chest, and it's tearing me apart. Her breath hitched, fury and longing warring inside her. The bond pulsed harder, an undeniable truth wrapping them both in its grip. Neither of them wanted to admit it, but it was clear now. The bond would not be broken, and it was only a matter of time before it consumed them both. The night split open with screams. Illyra and Kaelin spun toward the sound howls rising from the outskirts of the territory. Rogues, dozens this time, their hunger echoed through the bond of the pack, a tide of fury rushing toward the heart of the village. Kaelin's eyes hardened, alpha instinct taking command. Stay here. Illyra's lips curved into a bitter laugh. You still think I'm something you can put away, like a secret you don't want the pack to see. Before he could answer, she was running. Her bare feet tore across the dirt, her body trembling as the fire inside her wolf surged again. She could feel the bond stretching taut between them, pulling him in her wake. The first rogue leapt from the trees. Elara didn't hesitate. Her body burst into golden light, her wolf exploding outward in all her glory. Fur gleamed like molten sunlight, claws like blades of pure flame. She hit the rogue midair, snapping its neck before it touched the ground. The pack froze at the sight, dozens of eyes wide, disbelief and awe shimmering. The cursed girl, the human, the one with no wolf, had become a goddess among them. Elara, Kaelin whispered, stunned. She moved through the battle like fire given form. Every strike was instinct, every roar shaking the night. She shielded pups, cut down rogues, her golden eyes flashing with unrelenting power. And through it all, Kaelin fought at her side, their movements in perfect, devastating harmony, as if their wolves had always known one another. But the rogues kept coming, too many, a massive brute, larger than any wolf Kaelin had ever seen, lunged straight for him. Kaelin braced for impact, and Elara intercepted. Her golden wolf slammed into the beast, ripping it away from him, teeth sinking deep into its throat. The brute howled, thrashing before crumpling into the dirt. Elara staggered, blood matting her fur. For a terrifying moment she swayed, collapsing onto her paws. Kaelin dropped beside her, shifting back to human, his hands trembling as he cradled her head. "No, don't you dare leave me." His voice cracked, raw and desperate. "I was a fool. I thought rejecting you would keep the pack safe. But it was fear. My fear, and you. Goddess Elara, you were never the danger. You were the strength I needed all along." Her golden eyes blinked open, locking with his. The bond flared between them, fierce and unbreakable. Before the entire pack, Kaelin lifted his head, his voice carrying with alpha command, "She is mine, my mate, my equal, my Luna." The words thundered across the clearing, undeniable. A shiver tore through the bond, sealing what rejection could not undo. The pack dropped to their knees, bowing to the golden wolf and the alpha who claimed her. Elara shifted back, trembling in Kaelin's arms. Tears streaked her cheeks, but her smile was fierce. "You didn't choose me," she whispered, voice steady despite her exhaustion. "I choose you." Kaelin pressed his forehead to hers, his hands cupping her face. "Then let the goddess bear witness," he murmured, "that no power will ever take you from me again." Around them the pack rose, howls of loyalty shaking the stars. The battle was over, the truth no longer hidden. And for the first time, Elara stood not as the cursed girl, not as the rejected mate, but as the wolf who had chosen her own destiny. The forest was quiet now, the air heavy with the scent of pine and smoke from the fading battle. The pack had returned to their dens, murmuring among themselves, awe still in their eyes. Only the clearing remained, bathed in silver moonlight, where Kaelin and Elara stood side by side. Elara's golden fur shimmered faintly in the soft glow. She had shifted back to human form, but the bond thrummed gently between them, steady, warm, and unbreakable. Her hair clung damply to her shoulders, and her hands trembled, not from exhaustion, but from relief. Kaelin's eyes roamed her face, tracing every line, every fleck of dirt, every scar left from her struggles. His hands brushed hers, tentative at first, then firm, grounding both of them. "You were incredible," he whispered, voice rough, laced with awe. Stronger than I ever imagined. She shook her head, a small, tired laugh escaping. "I only did what I had to survive, to protect the pack." Kaelin pressed a hand to her cheek, thumb brushing the corner of her eye, swiping away a lingering tear. "You didn't just protect the pack, you saved me. And now you're mine, not hidden, not rejected, not cursed. Only mine." Her chest swelled, emotions colliding. Fear, love, relief, desire, all wrapped tight in the bond that had pulled them together again and again. She lifted her hand to his intertwining fingers. "I choose you," she said softly, the words carrying the weight of everything they had endured, not because the pack said so, not because the moon goddess willed it. "I choose you." Kaelin's lips curved into a rare, unguarded smile. "Then we start as equals, my Luna." She leaned into him, their foreheads touching, breaths mingling in the cool night air. The bond pulsed gently, a quiet promise threading through their veins, an affirmation that neither distance, fear, nor denial could sever them again. Around them, the moonlight seemed to shimmer brighter, silver beams weaving through the trees, as if the forest itself acknowledged their union. Selene, lurking at the edge of the clearing, bowed her head slightly, a rare look of respect softening her features. Even rivals recognized the undeniable truth. The girl who had once been rejected had risen, stronger and more radiant than anyone could have imagined. Kalen dipped his head, brushing his lips across her forehead. "Sleep soon, Luna. The pack is safe, we're safe, and now the rest is ours to claim." Alara pressed her cheek against him, feeling his heartbeat synchronize with hers. Together, she whispered, "Always," he murmured back. And beneath the moon, amidst the scent of pine and the whispers of the night, the bond pulsed steady and eternal. The wolf that had been hidden, the alpha who had denied, the girl who had survived, all had found their rightful place. For the first time there was no fear, no hiding, only moonlight, love, and promises unbroken. And the forest held its breath, watching them claim their destiny together.